Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going to deep dive into MCDP 3.
that's the Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication 3, right?
Expeditionary Operations. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the foundation for how the Marines operate in, like, today's world.
Gotcha.
So we're going to break down the key concepts,
Okay.
look at some historical examples, and hopefully give you some insights into what makes the Marine Corps so unique.
Yeah, they are a unique branch.
Yeah, and formidable.
Formidable
So
indeed.
think of MCDP 3 as like a living document,
Okay.
a guide to how the Marine Corps thinks about warfare, strategy, and its role globally.
And it's way more dynamic than like your average military manual.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A lot more to it.
So today we're going to unpack 4 big ideas from MCDP 3.
All right, lay it on me.
Operational maneuver from the sea,
Okay.
sustained operations ashore, military operations other than war,
All right.
and maritime prepositioning force operations.
Okay, so we've got a lot to cover.
Yeah, and we've got excerpts from the document itself, so we're ready to, break it all down.
Awesome. Let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's start with operational maneuver from the sea,
Often shortened to OMFTS.
OMFTS.
It might sound pretty simple, right? Like using the sea to move troops.
Right, just using the sea to get around.
But it's so much more than that.
Okay, so how is it more than just transportation?
Well, think about it. It's about using the vastness and unpredictability of the ocean, like to your advantage.
Oh, okay.
You can think of the sea as like a giant chessboard,
Oh, wow. But
where you can outmaneuver your opponent and strike quickly.
hit them where they least expect it.
Exactly, with speed and precision.
Now, MCDP-3 talks about the 1944 Marianas Campaign in World War II as like a prime example of this.
Right.
And it wasn't just about island hopping.
Oh.
It was a strategic move to cut off enemy supply lines.
Right, but basically gaining control of the entire Pacific.
Yeah, and that strategic thinking is still important today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's timeless.
Imagine launching helicopters, landing craft, even advanced vehicles right from ships,
Wow.
bypassing traditional beachheads and hitting the enemy hard and fast.
So you're saying like straight from the ship to the objective?
Yeah, what they call ship-to-objective maneuver,
Oh, wow.
a core principle of OMFTS.
It really is like a modern-day chess match.
Yeah, but with much higher stakes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, MCDP-3 also emphasizes that once Marines are ashore, the fight's not over.
Right.
That's where sustained operations ashore comes in.
Exactly. This is about the Marine Corps' ability to not just land,
Yeah.
but to really dig in, adapt to the situation.
And keep the pressure on.
Yeah, no matter the terrain or the conditions.
The Persian Gulf War comes to mind.
A perfect example.
Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Textbook cases.
I was reading about how the I-Marine Expeditionary Force, which was originally designed for naval operations,
Right.
seamlessly transitioned into a land force.
Yeah.
During Desert Shield, fighting alongside the Army in a crazy desert environment.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive adaptability.
Adaptability is like built into the Marine Corps, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's part of their DNA.
I could see that.
And MCDP-3 highlights all the logistical issues of sustained operations.
Right?
Think about keeping troops supplied, maintaining equipment.
All while fighting the enemy.
Right, in a super harsh environment.
That's got to be tough.
It takes incredible planning and grit.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Every Marine, no matter what their job is,
Yeah.
needs to be ready for those logistical challenges.
And as technology changes,
Those challenges change too.
and the solutions.
Right, exactly.
Speaking of changing, it's clear that today's world needs Marines to be ready for more than just traditional warfare.
That's for sure.
And that's where MCDP-3 goes into military operations other than war.
MOTW.
Right?
OTW. We're talking about everything from like disaster relief
Yeah.
and humanitarian aid to peacekeeping and counterterrorism.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, totally different skills and mindset. Completely. MCDP-3 uses the 1991 U.S. Embassy evacuation from Mogadishu as a case study for MOTW.
Oh, yeah. Mogadishu.
Talk about a crazy situation.
High stakes, unpredictable.
Demanded skill, courage, and cultural awareness.
All of it.
So what unique skills do you think a Marine brings to MOTW compared to other branches? I mean,
That's a good question. What do you think?
well, based on what we've talked about so far,
Yeah.
I think adaptability, being self-sufficient, and thinking on your feet are crucial,
Right.
and that expeditionary mindset.
Yeah, being able to work in tough environments.
Yeah, unfamiliar places.
You nailed it.
So let's move on to something that sounds kind of sci-fi. Maritime prepositioning force operations.
All right, let's hear it.
It's like having this massive floating warehouse packed with equipment strategically placed around the world,
Wow.
ready to go at a moment's
It's
notice.
like a giant toolbox.
Yeah, think of these ships as self-contained arsenals loaded with everything.
Everything.
Yeah, vehicles, weapons, ammo, medical supplies.
Wow.
When something happens, Marines can fly in from anywhere,
Right.
link up with these ships, and they've got everything they need.
That sounds incredibly efficient.
Yeah, it is. There's a great historical example, the 1990 deployment to Saudi Arabia during Desert Shield.
Oh, yeah.
Maritime prepositioning let the Marine Corps get combat power to the region so fast.
That's amazing.
It was key in stopping further Iraqi aggression.
So it's all about speed, agility, and responding to crises with overwhelming force.
You got it.
Yeah.
And it keeps evolving with technology.
So what are we talking about for the future?
Imagine entire Marine units assembling at sea,
Wow.
integrating with amphibious forces, conducting missions without ever touching a base.
That's mind-blowing.
It really makes you think about what the future of warfare holds.
Yeah. What's next?
All right, let's take a second to recap what we've covered so far.
Okay, good idea.
We've got operational maneuver from the sea,
OMFTS.
sustained operations ashore,
Right.
military operations other than war, and maritime prepositioning force operations.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah, and these concepts are all about how the Marine Corps adapts, innovates, and projects power in a world that's constantly changing.
And MCDP-3 is more than just like a static document. It's a philosophy.
Yeah, a way of thinking that guides every Marine.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so unique.
It's not just about following orders. It's about understanding the bigger picture
Being able to adapt.
and taking initiative to get the job done.
It's a whole mindset.
We've covered a ton in this first part of our deep dive,
Yeah, we have.
but we're just getting started. We'll be back to delve even deeper into MCDP-3 after a short break.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back. So let's keep digging into MCDP-3.
Yeah, at the end of the last part, you mentioned some pretty futuristic stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, like, how are these new ideas shaping the future of the Marine Corps?
Well, one concept that's like super important now is distributed operations.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about OMFTS and using maneuverability?
Yeah.
Distributed operations takes that to a whole new level.
Okay,
So instead of concentrating forces in one spot,
Yeah.
you spread them out, making them harder to hit.
Oh, okay, so you're saying like a smaller, more mobile force.
Yeah, and they're all connected.
Oh, so they can work together.
Right. They can operate on their own,
Yeah.
but they can also come together for a big attack if they need to.
I see, so they can be flexible.
Exactly. It's like a swarm of bees.
Oh, wow, okay.
One bee isn't a big deal, but a
wait.
whole swarm.
You're in trouble.
Exactly.
And you mentioned technology.
Right.
How does technology help with this distributed warfare?
Well, you need secure communications, advanced sensors, unmanned systems.
Oh, wow.
All working together.
So everyone knows what's going on.
Exactly. It's like having eyes everywhere.
That's incredible.
And you can attack from anywhere.
It's like a whole different way of fighting.
Yeah, it's a big change from how things used to be.
So it sounds really complex.
Oh, it is.
I bet it takes a lot of training to make it work.
It takes a ton of training and coordination.
But ultimately, it comes down to the Marines on the ground.
You got it. Technology is just a tool.
Right. It's the Marines making the decisions.
Exactly. They're
Yeah.
training their adaptability, their judgment.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about information warfare?
Oh, that's a hot topic.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like a spy movie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, a little bit.
So what is information warfare exactly?
It's basically about controlling the story.
This story.
Yeah, shaping how people see things.
Oh, yeah.
And influencing what your enemies do.
Interesting. So it's not just hacking computers.
Oh, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But it's way bigger than that.
Like what?
We're talking psychological operations, propaganda,
Wow.
even public diplomacy.
So you're trying to win over people's minds.
Right. It's a battle for hearts and minds.
That's fascinating.
It's all about understanding how people use information.
And then using that to your advantage.
Exactly.
So a Marine today needs to be more than just a fighter.
oh, yeah.
They need to be a communicator, a strategist.
Almost a diplomat.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, let's talk about Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations.
Or EABO.
EABO, yeah,
Now, this is where things get really cool.
right, I'm ready.
So EABO is about setting up small mobile bases
Okay.
on islands, coastlines, even ships.
Oh, wow. So they're like little outposts.
Right. And you use them to project power.
So instead of big permanent bases,
You have a network of smaller, more flexible ones.
that's interesting. And this ties into distributed operations, right?
Absolutely. It's about using what's already there.
Existing infrastructure.
Right. But also being able to set up these bases in tough spots quickly. quickly.
So like in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly.
Right.
Places like the Indo-Pacific where you have all those islands.
So Marines are constantly moving.
Yeah, setting up and taking down bases.
Wow. It's like a high-stakes game of leapfrog.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something like that.
That's incredible. It
Yeah.
sounds like EABO requires a lot of different skills.
Oh, it does. You need engineers, logisticians,
Yeah.
communications experts, intelligence analysts.
So every Marine has a role to play.
Exactly. Every Marine will be important in these operations.
And they need to be able to adapt and solve problems.
And work as a team.
So it's not just about storming beaches anymore.
That's the old way of thinking.
The future's about being more versatile.
More adaptable.
Yeah, and more strategic.
Got it. But even though things are changing,
Yeah.
the core values of the Marine Corps stay the same.
Honor, courage, commitment.
Exactly.
It's really cool to see how the Marine Corps is adapting to these new ideas.
While staying true to their traditions.
Yeah, MCDP-3 is about more than just tactics.
It's a way of looking at the world.
A mindset.
Right, and it's about preparing Marines for the future.
A future we can't even imagine.
Well said. But we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Stay with us for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll look at how these ideas are playing out around the world.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive for this last part.
Yeah, let's wrap this up.
We've talked about a lot from OMFTS to EABO.
We have covered a ton of ground.
And now I want to see how all this stuff works in the real world.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about it in theory, but seeing it in action is a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. So let's talk about a place that's been in the news a lot, the South China Sea.
Yeah, that's a hot spot.
Lots of tension and competing claims.
It's a powder keg.
Seems like a good place to see MCDP-3 in action.
Yeah, you're right. The South China Sea is a perfect example of why these new concepts are so important.
Like distributed operations and EABO.
Exactly. It's complex and volatile. Traditional military stuff might not work so well there.
So instead of sending a huge carrier strike group, which could like escalate things,
Right, could make things worse.
you might use smaller, more mobile units.
Yeah, spread them out, make them harder to hit.
That makes sense.
Think about it, littoral combat ships with long-range missiles,
Oh, wow.
working with unmanned boats and underwater drones.
So they're all over the place.
Exactly. They can move fast, set up temporary bases, gather intel, disrupt the enemy.
As like a high-tech game of hide and seek. Yeah, something like that. But with way higher stakes.
And this approach would also be good for working with allies, right?
You got MCDP-3 is all about building strong relationships with other countries.
Especially in the Indo-Pacific.
Right. Imagine Marines training with the Filipinos or the Japanese.
Sharing intel, coordinating operations.
Presenting a united front.
So it's not just about military power, it's about diplomacy, too.
Exactly. You need both.
Okay, let's switch gears for a sec and talk about humanitarian assistance and disaster relief.
Okay.
We talked about MOTW, but how does this stuff work in a real disaster?
Imagine a huge earthquake or typhoon hits an island. Roads are gone, communications are down, people need help fast,
That's a...
and time is running out.
So the Marines would be the first ones there.
They could be. With their training and expertise, they can operate from ships or land in tough spots.
And they can provide aid, distribute supplies, get things running again.
Exactly. They can stabilize the situation.
It's amazing how the same skills you use in combat can also save lives. It's what makes the Marines so versatile.
Yeah, they can respond to any crisis anywhere.
That's the idea. MCDT-3 isn't just about fighting wars, it's about being a force for good.
All right, as we finish up this deep dive into MCDP-3, what's the one big takeaway?
I think it's this MCDP-3 is not just some old document.
It's not set in stone.
Right, it's a living philosophy. It's how the Marine Corps thinks and adapts to the world.
It's been really cool to see how these ideas are shaping the future of the Marine Corps.
I agree.
Well, thanks for joining us on this journey into MCDP-3.
It's been a pleasure.